Well, Ongama joins us now. He is a lecturer at Nelson Mandela University and a political analyst. Thank you for being with us, as always. So is the president personally compromised?
Good evening, Francis, and your viewers. I think that there have been many attempts to try and frame the president in bad light, starting with Marikana and then the Glencore project. All those attempts always had loopholes up until this one that's now in the public domain. The fact of the matter is that there's huge amount of foreign currency that's corroborated in the stories of, Arthur Fraser, as well as the president himself, in confirming that a breakaway happened in his farm. And the question that is lingering to me is why such a huge amount of cash seemingly stashed away, and two, why make attempts allegedly to keep that information from the public domain? Obviously, there's still going to be responses to that, but the one that this was game, proceeds from the sale of game, is not satisfactory enough for me, at least. And so I do think that these allegations are likely going to stick, and indeed the faction that has been campaigning attempting to decampaign the president's messaging around institution rebuilding and good governance has him right where they need him to be.
So how will this stop institution building, just because he will be politically weakened, I guess?
Sure. So on two levels. Firstly, the NPA and the SIU, the Hawks, all have to investigate the information, the case on varying levels. And to do that against somebody who's been your political sponsor necessarily so, is going to be very difficult. It's going to require a degree of independence, which in my view, in the organization development work that's been taking place, the institutions have had to depend on the president's political support and political capital. And so that's the first one. On the second level, the longer he stays in office and these institutions successfully do their work and bring more politicians implicated in state capture to book through charging them and having their cases ventilated in the courts of law, it's going to create the impression of what we call the victor's justice, the justice which is done by a victorious political grouping on the basis of its victory, and everybody else who's not on the same side as them will be seen to be protected. And there's already allegations to that effect, that if you look at state capture revelations, people like Zizi Kodwa, Kwede Mandashe, among others, are mentioned somehow, including the president himself. So the perception that the NPA is political and partisan when it actually moves against even people who may legitimately be, their cases may have reached a stage where they should be charged. It will remain compromised if the president remains in office and those people who are seen to be associated with him are not being prosecuted. So it's going to create a very bad environment of victor's justice.
Let me really ask you about this, because despite the factionalism within the party, someone like Shamila Batoyi should have no fear, no favor. She came in as a fearless leader who would be independent. So sure. You're saying that's not necessarily the case. And what about the leaders of other institutions?
Sure, excuse my dog there. So here's the thing. And as one reads the recent book by Bulelani Ngcuka on the nature of relationship between the National Director of Prosecutions and Public Prosecutions and the sitting president, there's a degree to which some cases which may have or may pose some national security risks and may say, for example, a cabinet minister is implicated. You see that there is a degree of one wanting to apprise the sitting president, should there be a minister that's going to be charged. If the sitting president is somebody who's compromised and somebody who has got who's sensitive to the shaping of political alliances in a conference year, the extent to which the NDPP, among others, are going to be allowed to be assertive and actually lead the charge in terms of prosecutions is going to be somewhat constrained. So I think it makes sense. It may make sense for the president to actually pave a way for somebody else to come in and take that project forward, especially if his commitment to the project of rebuilding was more to the ideal than his own personal ambitions. You know what I mean? Because if his commitment is to the ideal, then he can pick anybody who has shown some greater commitment to that, even if he, on the basis of a principle, bows out to so that the office of the president is not embroiled in scandal at a time when prosecutorial institutions need to be, firm in pursuing people who are alleged to have been involved in wrongdoing at a senior government level.
Finally, Ongama, and very quickly, please, many would ask, given the caliber of leader in the ANC right now, if not him, then who can have that commitment?
The question has been asked so much that it's now bordering on at best fear and at worst manipulation, in the sense that the ANC, if they cast their eyes wide enough, there are people who are credible, have led in various capacities throughout the country. Some of them, I can recall, for example, one person who used to work at Nelson Mandela Bay, who said to me, I preferred that I would walk out of that municipality poor than, accede to the demands that were being made by a corrupt clique of politicians. A lot of them are out there and are tired of the politics that of self-aggrandizement that have, besetted the movement. So they must cut their eyes wide enough. There are people who are capable. And my argument was that the president, though, shouldn't do the resignation in a way that threatens that rebuilding project. He may be able, once he has secured a party political process to lead the change, he can resign. And also, if he does a cabinet reshuffle first, and change key roles, including that of deputy president, before such a resignation, as far as I'm concerned, because we cannot escape the fact that the opposing faction are avowed anti-constitutional democracy people who have said so publicly. Many of them prefer a parliamentary democracy which is power-centric rather than rule of law-centric. And a lot of them have opposed even the institution building that's been happening at a party level and have pushed back against instituting step-aside resolutions. So you cannot be naive and think that, power falling into their hands is going to be good stewardship of the country and the process of little rebuilding of institutions, which the president has actually undertaken.
Yeah, and we need those institutions so dearly. I wish I could chat to you all evening, but you've given us the broad strokes of your argument. Thank you very much, political analyst, lecturer at Nelson Mandela University, Ongama Mtimka.